So welcome back, and this part now of our Revit tutorial is all about the 2D elements and therefore all about detailing. So let's get started, and if you want to create a detail in Revit, there are two ways. A rather easy way, which essentially is importing a DWG and working with a DWG in your Revit file, or you really start detailing or create your detail from scratch in Revit. The first thing we need to do is we need to jump into our level 1 floor plan. And the reason behind that is that I want to create a section first. So to create a section, you have already seen that. I just go to my quick menu, or I could also go to View and click on Section. And I want to create a detail of our roof. So I just put a section somewhere over here. Right click and go to View. So as you see, we don't really have an attic, but we just pretend to have one for this tutorial, and I want to create a detail somewhere over here. So what I need to do next is I will create a callout. You will find that callout command under View, and here you will find callout. And I could just go and create a rectangle or sketch. We just use a rectangle, it's rather easy. And I say here I want to have my detail a callout. And then it's the same workflow more or less as with a section. I can go right click and say go to View, or also will find that view now under section in this case. Why will you find it under section? When I select that callout, you will find the view type is defined by a section. So if I want to have it under detail, for example, I just detail as a view type, and then in my project browser I will find a new tier which is called detail view, and in here I will find all my callouts. So now this is our detail, and it starts with a scale from 1 to 50. I think 1 to 5 might be a bit better. And as you have seen, the scale determines the size of all annotations. So for example, the text over here, or the line weight. And I want to extend a bit my callout, so I can just select that frame over here and drag those bubbles into any direction I want to. Okay. So now the easy part, which is importing the DWG into Revit. And we can do so by going to Insert, and we find Link Cut or Import Cut. In an earlier tutorial I told you to rather not import DWGs instead of linking it, because linking is much easier on the file size and in the overall management. But in this case we need to import it. I will show you why is that. So first I'm going to import cut, which is importing DWGs. And what's important is that you check current view only. And current view only means that if we import that DWG, it will be only visible within that callout. If we would uncheck that command over here, it would be visible in the section, for example, or also in the 3D mode, which we don't want, so we check current view only. The colors we do want to preserve, and the layers and levels we want them all. Import units, we keep them on auto detect. There might be some trouble, but doesn't matter for the moment. We will see if it will work out or not. And the positioning I will do manually. So once I've done that, I just double click, and now I can place my DWG, and as you can see already, it's kind of tiny. So we need to scale it. And we scale it, or what we do before we scale, we say the door layers in the foreground. Which means if I drag the DWG upon my 3D object, my roof, it will still be visible. It will be in front of that 3D element. If I switch it to background, it will be behind that 3D object. So let's undo it back to foreground, and we go to edit type, and we can change the scale factor. And usually it should be sufficient if we do it by 10. Say okay. And this looks much better. Let's do some measuring if it's fine, and I just measure that concrete piece. It's nearly 30 centimeters. Okay, seems fine. Let's check out the installation, which is 16 centimeters, which is fine. Another thing we need to do is we need to mirror the DWG. So I just select that file. I go to mirror door axis, and I don't want to copy that element, so I uncheck copy, and I just draw an axis somewhere over here. And now it's been mirrored. Let's position it to, it doesn't need to be that precise for the moment. We just do an example of how we going to use 2D elements and how to detail. So it doesn't really matter where it's positioned. I just place it somewhere over here. So now what I can do, and now why it's important to import the DWG is I can explode it, which means I will, which means in the end that those elements in here, those hedges and lines, will become Revit elements, Revit 2D elements, which I can modify. So I just say full explode. And now I can modify each and every line in here. Now those are Revit elements, a filled region in that case. I could just go in here and delete it if I want to. I just want to have a white background. So I just create a new type by going to edit type, duplicate, and just say this is white. Okay, and the fill pattern is a solid fill. And we set the color to white. And okay. So now I've created a white, let's say, cover up. And on top of that, I will create my installation lines, and I will find them under annotate, where I can find all my 2D elements. So I can find here my installation, which is over here, but I can also find here my detail lines, my filled regions and masking regions, my 2D components, which we will see later, revision clouds, spot elevation, spot slopes, which is really cool, align dimensions, linear dimensions, angular dimensions, all sorts of dimensions. And I will also find text and tags over here. So let's keep on going with our installation. So I just choose installation, and installation is a funny component in here. We just define the width of our installation, which was 16 centimeters. Up, 0.16. And now I can just draw those loops, I guess. And I can draw them as long as I want to. We have a cropped region defined, so they will be cut off. And this I will do with that thing over here, and I will do that thing over here as well. So same workflow. We change the type to being white, and we just this is something like 5 centimeters. Yeah. And I don't want to do it for those lines as well. I just want to keep those lines. So what I'm going to do is I just right click on one of those lines and I say select all instances. Oh, will not work with lines. Sorry. What I want to do is, this is the line style, D, VDR, whatever, and I will just modify that line not to be green but to be black. And for that I just go to manage, and under additional settings I will find my line styles, and I will find that line type category over here, and it says line color green, and I will change it to being black. Okay, and see, now it's black. Okay, we still need to do something. I guess this is wood, so I just change that two types over here to be a wooden hedge. We already have wood, so this looks pretty good. What we don't need is that one over here. We could keep it. We could just say, okay, this is concrete, so I could go and check out if we have a concrete hedge or concrete pattern, which we don't have. So just create one, add a type, duplicate, call it concrete. Same workflow as before, and we have the American style concrete. Do we also have the German style? I'm not quite sure yet. Here, we're talking about that. I want to use that one. And say okay. And now we have that concrete pattern. If I change the scale to, let's say, 1 to 10, the pattern will scale along it. We don't need that Gefälle text over here. We delete that. We delete that line as well. We don't need them. And what we still need to do is our ceiling pattern to be more precise. And also there are multiple ways. We just try one of those things over here, one of those components, and we have something which is called detail component. And a detail component is a family, and we don't have one loaded yet, so we need to load the family. And let's check out if we have one. Under annotation, detail, so annotation detail, and we have, I hope it's in here, Kunststoff, Dichtungsbahn, which is the ceiling. And let's check out that family over here. So we go to component, and I choose a detail component, and I choose the, I don't know, betonbeständig, and I just go along those lines. I can start wherever I want to and drag it or draw it all the way up here. And I need another one. I just copy that one real quick from here to there. And what I don't want to have is I want to have a certain offset. So what I can do is I just move that ceiling by one element, and now you see it's overlapping over here. A downside of those families here is that you can only draw a straight line. You cannot create a curve, which makes them a bit unhandy at times. And usually the workflow is just you start creating a straight line from here to there, let's say. And you can also see it takes a bit of performance. It takes power. Or it does not work. If the line is too short, it will not work. So we delete it. And another way to work with that thing is to just create your own black and white hedges, which is much easier at times. So what we're going to do is fill region. And I just choose my where is it? Solid black hedge, and I just create this start somewhere over here, and it's something along those lines. Say okay, and I just copy it. Or even easier, I create an array. So we say we want to choose the starting point and the end point. So this is my starting point, and my last element is supposed to be somewhere over here. And in between those two elements, I want to have, let's say, 5. Or let's make it even 7 of those hedges. And a couple of more important things are, okay, dimensioning. I think you have seen a lot of times already, but again, you will find an aligned dimension, for example, on annotate, and here you will find aligned, and I just measure it from here to there. Let's say that's 30. And if I want to have more dimensions next to that one, I could just select that dimension and say edit witness lines, and select a couple of more references. That one, and I want to have, I don't know, that one, and I want to have that one. And okay, I can select that witness line again, and I can just drag that number to the side if I want to. And just select line, you see those tiny bubbles, you can move them up and down. Another thing we could do is we could create an angular dimension. It's not really, makes not a lot of sense in here, but just to show to you, here we can see we have a 45-degree angle or a 135-degree angle. We could use spot elevations, and I select a reference line somewhere over here. Then there's the leader and the shoulder. And now with my spot elevation. If I don't want to have a shoulder and the leader, I can just uncheck it on here. Target seems the symbol is a bit off. Let's change it to have an issue we have right now is that this is not the symbol we need. We need to have a black arrow or white arrow, and we can just do so by going to edit type, and we can change the symbol. And let's see what exterior fill does. Yeah, there you go. This one now is black. If we need a white one, we need to modify that symbol. And if we want to modify that symbol, we can do so by going to families in the project browser, looking for, I think they are under detail items. And nope, they are annotation symbols over here. And we just say edit, right click edit, and now we go to the family editor. What I'm going to do is I just go to edit type, say this one now is white, say okay, with and those lines are not invisible. Those lines are supposed to be, yeah, just black lines. It's fine. And I'm going to save it under a different name. So I just go to File, Save As, Family, Spot Elevation, Exterior, Void, Save, and I load it back to my project. And now I could just go in here and say, no, I want to have a different type, a different symbol for that type, which is exterior white. See, if I need both of them, I create a new type, edit type, duplicate, and I call it FFL for finished floor level. Finished floor gets the white symbol. Say okay, and the target thing over here gets the black one. Filled, I'll rename it, and I call it SFL. Alright, so this is now a finished floor level, so let's keep it that way, FFR. If I need another one, I just go again to spot elevation, choose structure floor level, leader and shoulders fine, and I say here to there. Another cool thing or interesting thing is the spot slope. I really like that. And the spot slope you will find over here returns my slope. And okay, it says now something like 48 to 1000. Let's just modify the display and we select that yeah, that spot slope, go to edit type, and we change it to something I'm familiar with, and the unit is, let's say I want to have percentage, and the rounding is let's take 2 decimal places. Unit symbol is percentage. Click on OK. And this now looks much better. And if I would change the slope of that line, the numbers will update as well. If there's no slope at all, it will tell you there's no slope. And this is particularly good if you have a roof. If I create real quick a roof, I just go to 3D, create another roof over here. Roof, level 2, just somewhere, doesn't really matter. And it has on each side a slope of, let's give that one 45 degrees, let's give that one 60 degrees, and we give that one 10 degrees. Let's see if it will work. I can create a section, and now under annotate spot slope, I can see my slope in each direction. And if I change, let's put it side to side, just real quick. By pressing WT, I will put my 2 views side by side, and I just update that slope. You see the numbers will update according to it. So this is really handy. It really saves a lot of time if you create yeah, a roof in the end and you're not quite sure about the slope you have right now, which you have modeled. Always use spot slopes. They are very, 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 very good. What we still need to have are, we could add some text, just pressing on text. Here we have different types again, which are defined by its size and the text, or the, how it's called again, the font, Arial. I just click somewhere, I just type something in, pretty easy. But I want to have something more intelligent. I want to have real that information from that yeah, field region. So I need to create one. So I just go to new, family, and I need to have an annotation, and I want to have a detail item tag. There is none, there's not a template for it, so I just use a generic tag for the moment, and I will change the category afterwards. So this now is our generic tag. We can go to our properties over here and say this is not a generic model tag, it's a detail item tag. Detail item tags. Say okay. And I want to have a label in here. The label essentially returns the information of my detail item. So if I click somewhere in my canvas, I can select different parameters. This could be, for example, the type name. Just double click in here, say okay. Now it says type name. I just position it somewhere over here, and I load it real quick into our project. Okay, and now I can place a detail item tag by going to annotate, tag by category, and as you can see here, once I hover over my concrete filled region, it says concrete. It's not visible right now. Why is that? It's over there. Because of our annotation crop. It was not completely within that annotation crop, so it was not visible. So we don't need that node. So we double click on our detail item tag and delete that node, load it back to our project, and it says concrete. Why? Because our detail item, our field region, is called concrete. If I change it to diagonal crosshatch, it says diagonal crosshatch. This is not the best way. I rather like to use material tags for that. And material tags only work with 3D components, like our wall. So I just choose a material tag real quick. And since we don't have a material associated yet, it returns then a question mark, but doesn't really matter for the moment. Once I change that generic basic wall to have a material, I just do it real quick for the moment. We will see that later in the next tutorial. I just say it's copper or whatever do we have in here. No wonder material. Yeah, that's a brick. Okay. It will say it's common brick. If we check out that family, again, we select it, say edit family, and it's the same workflow as with every tag family. This is a label, and within our label, we can define what information is supposed to be returned. So in that case, it was the description. We could also say, no, give me the name or the cost or the manufacturer. Just put everything in here. We load it back to our project. and now it returns much more information according to our material. So if I change the material again, the information, I go to edit type and change the material in here. It says within the identity, the description is common brick. So it's not common brick, we say it's, I don't know, it's a masonry wall with, I don't know, 365 or 260, 11.5 by 25, let's say. And the manufacturer is me, and it costs 2,000 euros. Per brick. Say okay. Okay. And now you would have all that information in that tag, and it would be with every wall which has that material in there. So not only for that callout, but also in the section. If you go to the section 3, I could do that, the same things in there. It's the same wall. I just go again to annotate, and probably have noticed that all our information we have placed in our callout are not visible within the section, because 2D elements, annotations, dimensions, and so on, are only visible within that view where you have placed them. So only in that callout. So everything else will not be visible. So if we create another annotation, material tag, it will return that same information. And that information will not be visible within our callout, because it's view related. So another part which is quite nice is the room tag, and I will just switch it to hidden line real quick. And if I place a room into our pavilion, a room is a 3D element, but it's not visible in 3D. It's an exception. I will just place them automatically. 4 rooms have been created. And now I can tag them. Tag room, we can find over here, but we could also go to annotate. And we could also choose here room tag. And now we can tag them according to our room tag, to our type, tag type. Room tag with area, room tag with volume. Let's choose with area. It says room number 2, name is room, and it has 18 square meters. And again, this is the same workflow. If I select that room, I change the name to, I don't know, kitchen. It will update within our tag. So it does not have the number 2, it has 0, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something. And if I change the size of our room by moving that wall, the area will update as well, which is really good, quite handy. And again, it's always the same workflow with every tag. It's always the same idea behind it. Select it, go to edit family. We define the category. So this is a room tag. It could also be roof tag, then it would only work with roofs. It could be a furniture tag, a floor tag. It doesn't really matter. We have to define a category for it. In this case, it's a room tag. Then we define a label by placing a new label, for example, somewhere wherever we want to. And according to our category, room in this case, we can return information from that category, which is, for example, level or the name or the perimeter, whatever we want to. Okay, and we load it back to our project. Always the same idea behind it. And now all our room tags have been updated with another information, which is, the name again, level 1. So all our rooms are on level 1, which is, correct. And the perimeter. And the information, if I select the room, you will find also in here in the properties. That says perimeter 17 meters, which you can also find in here. So to sum up everything you've just seen, what is the difference between 3D objects and 2D elements? 2D elements are usually annotations. They are view specific and they are not possible to evaluate. An annotation is a detail line. There can also be sections or dimensions or patterns. They can even be within 3D objects like a door or window. You can add 2D elements in there, like lines for the opening. What is view specific? View specific means you can only see and modify those lines, for example, in that view where you have created them. For example, a floor plan. You're not able to modify that line in a section, for example, or to see it in 3D view. They're also not possible to evaluate. So for example, if you want to get the area of a specific room, let's say, you need to use a room, a 3D object. You cannot use, for example, a hedge to get an area and put it into your schedule. That's not possible. Okay, so this was kind of simple right now, but we don't want to create everything from scratch. Not every detail needs to, or not every detail we need to define again. What is our build-up of our roof, for example? We have created them already as our 3D component. So wouldn't it be better if we could just use a combination of our 3D elements, a roof, and 2D elements, like ceiling or the insulation? Let's check it out in the next part.